This is Rupert Reyes, and I'm conducting my first interview with Yvonne Flores. And do you go by Yvonne Flores Cortez or just
Yvonne Cortez-Flores.
Yvonne Cortez-Flores.
Yes.
Okay, interview with Yvonne Cortez-Flores at Jenny Larson's house, and on July the 7th,
Yes.
2014. This interview is part of the Conversations to Create Unity Oral History Project conducted by the Susanna Dickinson Museum and Baylor University. So Yvonne, thanks for coming, and let's go ahead and get started with just maybe give me a bio on who is Yvonne Flores.
Who is Yvonne Cortez-Flores? Well, the reason why I put in Cortez is because I have to represent my mom,
Okay.
who's my rock. I grew up in Montopolis, East Austin. I'm the one of 9 brothers and sisters. My mom raised us by herself, but it was really a family organization to raise each other because she was working pretty much 2 full-time jobs. I love Austin. I'm very proud to be an Austinite, very proud to be Latina in Austin, proud to be from Montopolis. Went to school locally in Montopolis called Clayton Elementary, and then also before my middle school, the busing issue started, so we got bused to Murchison Middle School. And then I went to Johnson High School, but one of the things that happened while I was attending high school at Johnson was the busing where they had Anglo students coming to Johnston. And actually because of that, a lot of money got put into Johnston with the liberal arts program. And we got a brand new theater put in. Because the first 2 years, my freshman and senior year, I was doing theater in the cafeteria stage. And then the busing started, and we had a brand new theater, and it's still standing to this day. But the busing that probably happened in Johnston was the best thing that ever could have happened. Because growing up in an environment, my mom used to tell us stories where she's actually one of 19 kids. And yeah, and she used to tell us stories about when they used to go to Paramount Theater as kids, and they weren't allowed to go in. And so those kind of stories, they just always stuck in my head, like, wow, because growing up in that environment where we had students that were Anglo, African American, and Latinos, Mexican Americans, Chicanos, whatever the term you want to use, it was a great bonding, I think, in my experience, because we all got along. And actually our high school class, we reunion every year. It's not 5 or 10. I mean, we just had one not too long ago, but and the liberal arts program was great for me because that was my calling to get into theater. So there were a lot of things that I heard from my mom and from my older relatives about the horrors of the direct, segregation, discrimination of Austin.
Right.
But my experience growing up was a
Well,
little
let's
bit
talk
different.
about, you had mentioned that you were bused to Murchison Middle School.
Yeah.
Now, Montopolis to Murchison is quite a bus ride.
Oh yeah.
So describe to me what a day was like for you to go to school.
Similar to that at Johnston, everybody got along. And I had friends that were Anglo and Mexican and African American. I mean, there was never a negative moment. I think other than my personal uncomfortableness of being poor. So there was a whole concept where you see kids wearing, the Gloria Vanderbilts and the Jordache. And I used to wear my mom's clothes to middle school. So it was just the poor factor. But actually, like, races and different cultures and diversity, it was awesome. And I had great memories of Murchison Middle School and of Johnston, both.
So Allison, what was the population at Allison?
I want to say it was between probably 400 and 500 kids because it ran from kindergarten to 5th grade.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know this, but I know it had to be at least 500 kids.
And Latinos or black? Or
All Latinos, all African American. Majority Latinos and African American.
And how many white kids were there?
God, we had one. I remember her name, Paula Baylor. I remember her. That's the only one I remember, but it was just one.
So you're saying you didn't have any kind of transition problems with
None whatsoever.
going from a predominantly Spanish school to now a
No.
real mixed environment?
I didn't have, there was no uncomfortableness, no nervousness, nothing like that.
And how about growing up in Montopolis in terms of your language? I know that you speak Spanish, but both you and I kind of share the same trait of having to really work hard to speak it right.
Right, because I can mess up on some words. And my mom always tells me my Spanish is bien mucho. So I can only imagine what that means, but I know it's probably something not good. But I remember also being a kid in Allison where I used to speak better Spanish as a child than what I do now, because we used to be told not to speak Spanish when they heard us speaking Spanish. So that's something I do remember in elementary school. I think it's just really hard to have like memories growing up in Montopolis, because number one, we were poor and there were days where we didn't eat. I got shot when I was 7 in Montopolis. Grew up with the whole the Section 8 and the government assistance and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, it is what it was. It made us a stronger family, I think. It really did. Because even to this day, I think all my brothers and sisters live here in Austin, except one in San Antonio. But we're very close. We're very tight.
I don't know that I heard any dates yet. I mean, like, and I don't have to ask you your age, but just give me your birth date, and then I'll let anybody else do the math.
1969 was a very good year.
So you were in elementary school in the mid-70s?
Yeah. My first year of Johnson High School was 1984, and I graduated in 88.
So I'm more interested about getting shot at age 7.
Montopolis was a rough neighborhood, and we grew up at the Fairway Apartments, and it was the apartments where like nobody wanted to go to, and you know, we had a rough environment. And I actually remember years later, after getting shot, my youngest brother and my 2 sisters were actually playing in the front, and this guy was chasing this other guy, just point blank shot him right in the head. I mean, there was some pretty profound stuff. But 7 years old, we were playing in our room, and like I said, we were like beyond poor. We found these tennis balls out in the middle of the street, so we're like, hey, let's play basketball, because to this day we're huge basketball fans. Go Spurs, go. And my mom used to work as a maid at Hilton, the Hilton Hotel off Middle Fishville Road. So she brought hangers. We always had thousands of hangers because of that's what she used to bring home from the hotel. So we poked these hangers in the wall and made basketball rims. And we used to use the tennis balls to play basketball. God, that's so funny. But there were 5 of us, so it was really funny because one of us had to take a break to, you know, you can't play 5 on one side. So it was 2 on one side, 2 on the other side. And so I was on the bed waiting. I'm jumping, going, when's it my turn? When's it my turn? And I remember because it was really hot. We had no AC. There was no working AC in where we lived at. And I remember looking up and I just saw these sparks bouncing off the walls. And I thought, what is that? And then when I saw one like come right across here, my brother was actually going this way. And I remember turning from that to ask him, hey, what's that? And then I remember just blackout. And when I came to, boy, they jetted the room. They were gone. And I remember just like being on the floor with like blood.
So where did you get shot?
Right here.
In your shoulder. But it knocked you out.
Yeah.
Did you find out what was going on outside?
It's very, still gets to me, but who was it? It was actually some young punks that had a gun, and we're just playing. Well, it was across the street from. They lived, I think, they lived in a house, and they were gun owners, and they just got drunk or whatever.
So your mom, and I noticed, and you know, I hope you don't mind me asking this, but you haven't said anything about Dad.
He passed away in '83. I think it was cirrhosis of the liver.
So, and you grew up, and the conversation we've had on and off, because we know each other pretty well, about college. What kept you from going to college right out of high school?
We had to work. My first job was cleaning offices at, it was the Primeco building downtown in Austin, which I hated. It was a horrible job. And then the One American Center, we used to clean offices there. And that was like, I think I was 16, but we used to like go to school and then come home and go to work, and it was, we had to make a living. We had to survive.
And how late did you work?
Till 10:30. It was usually like 6:30 to 10:30, or sometimes 6 to 10. They would flex it off. But you know, and the thing about it too is, we even joke about it because they were like, man, we used to say, man, mom didn't mess around. We didn't keep 5, we didn't keep 10. We had to give her the whole paycheck. But it was what it was. You know, my mom had to pay bills and feed us and stuff, so it was never an issue. But yeah, those jobs sucked. They were horrible.
And you're now working with the county, and I know you're very active with the union.
Yes, I have 10 years state experience, 10 to 12 years state experience, because my first job, I graduated in 88. My first job was with the state, and I started in 89. So from 89 all the way up to 1999, I worked with the state, and then got hired on with the county July 1st, 2000, and I've been with them ever since. So I actually get to retire in about 3 years, which I'm kind of stoked about. I mean, I'm not going to stop working. I'm a single mom with 2 kids. I still have to work, but it's just kind of cool knowing, like, yay, I get to. What I really want to do is go work for a school system and be like on the same calendar year with my boys. So when they have off for spring break or Christmas and all that kind of stuff, I'll be able to, be off at the same time they are.
So what led you to your activism with the union? Is there a history in your family?
My mom graduated. She retired with AISD. She was a janitor, and she, like I said, my mom's been cleaning shit all her life. So from the hotel industry, she went and actually got a job at AISD, and she retired, I want to say maybe 2 or 3 years ago. But the whole time that she was with AISD, she was a union member, and when they had issues about, doing cuts and salary increases, but only for administrative jobs and not for janitorial staff. And, my mom was very, very vocal about that. And that she would always tell me, you don't have a voice unless you have a group of people with you together, and your best bet is always going to be with union. So that whole union activism totally struck and instilled in me from my mom, because she was very hardcore union.
And how effective do you think you're being with some of the changes that you're trying to?
Wow, with the new Supreme Court decision they just made on Harry versus Quinn, I don't know. The good thing about it, because I remember, it just makes me mad that, I was like, because we have a business manager and a president, I serve on the board, and I was like, this is not right, it's not right. And, our business manager was like, we're right to work in Texas. That won't even affect us. It will affect the states that are not right to work. But she's like, it's not going to hurt us. It's not going to affect us. We're still going to continue to keep doing what we're doing. And she's right about that. But I think it's just the general message that it's sending across the nation, saying, unions are going to get hurt. And they are. And people don't realize that, child labor laws, got struck down and got removed because of the unions. The 40-hour work week was because of unions, getting weekends, getting holidays, benefits, and pay, all of that. And see, that's what really annoys me too. It's like, all of this, I remember just going to the library and just doing my own, checking out my books and reading all the information, because Martin Luther King also did like a Nashville, Tennessee strike, and he was very involved with AFSCME, because I'm actually a very proud AFSCME union member. But that's what I remember reading about, Martin Luther King going to the janitorial strike in Tennessee, and that, two janitorial trash employees got killed, and they were just treating them like crap. And to have like Martin Luther King involved in the strike and in the march, And I mean, that was just so powerful that somebody of that nature would come down to Tennessee and represent the working class. And that's what it's really all about. You know, people keep talking about how the middle class and the poor are getting poor and the middle class are just being annihilated. So to me, it just keeps reminding me about Mexico, because you have a super rich and you have a super poor. And that's what's happening to the United States. And people don't seem to realize it. I wish the school system would have Union history very enthralled in their books and in their classes, and they don't.
Mm-hmm. So how do you feel about Austin? I mean, you just described the U.S. getting separated between the rich and the poor. How do you...
Austin's very liberal, and I think that's why I love it. I mean, recently it's changing and not in a good sense. One example is my mom sold her house in East Austin because the property taxes were getting ridiculous, and she lives with me now. And so you have all this, I don't know what's a nice word to say, but
well, don't use it.
right.
Say the word you want to use.
Well, it's getting, I think it's going to end up being worse than better, that you have all these people who obviously have a shitload of money who are buying like condos and apartments downtown for 1.2 or $1 to $2 million, and it's like nobody in Austin has that money. You know, that money's coming from out of state. It's not coming from Austin. And so the people who are born and raised here, who used to live in East Austin, they're moving. They're going to Lockhart, they're going to Elgin, they're moving out of county because they just can't afford to live here. So that scares me, because I'm thinking, it's like I think I had that conversation with you on the way over here. It's like, how much longer will I be able to afford to live here in Austin? You know, and that's one of the reasons why I love Austin, because to me, the bottom line is, to me, we're just a bunch of hippies, you know, and it's turning for the worse. I mean, I'm not going to be able to. Me and my 2 kids won't be able to live here, and that's sad.
And then you're looking at economic segregation. How about racial? Do you have a feeling about how things are going with race relations?
The sad thing is that because of how I was raised, you know, we have an interracial family. You know, we grew up in a predominantly African American neighborhood, because even though we grew up in Montopolis, the Fairway apartments we lived in, it was predominantly African American. So I have nieces and nephews that are half Mexican, half black. So we grew up in where it was just, there was no color. We were all human beings. And me personally, I don't have that. What I don't like that I'm seeing is, and again, I just talked to you about this on the way over here, so I'm just like so mad, is like, we have a city manager who's getting paid so much money for Austin. I mean, $325,000, including bonuses, to run Austin is just ridiculous. And you know, I work in the Health and Human Services Division because it's important to me. I work in the Family Support Services Division, and that's where we help indigents. You know, we help the families who are indigent, families who are in poverty, with rent assistance, utility assistance. We give food vouchers and food pantries, and we have a clothing closet. And you know, to me, that's so important, because I remember growing up in that environment. So I'm like trying to do what I can to like give back. But then when you see how the importance of what it is to be a public servant, but yet you're a city manager working for the city of Austin, and that to me is a public servant position, and it's where the privatization, where corporation, it starts getting involved with. You're not working for the cause, you're working for the paycheck, and that's a big damn paycheck for a city manager position in the city of Austin. That's the kind of thing that puts a bad taste in my mouth.
What do you? How do you see your life compared to your mom's life? If you had to say, what are the main differences?
Nothing of strength. I don't even hold a candle to what she went through. My mom's she's just awesome. She's like the bestest badass person in the world. My mom, she grew up with 19 brothers and sisters. And she tells me stories like in East Austin, where they had like a little house, and the mom and dad lived in the house, and the kids lived in tents. tarps, tents out in the backyard. I mean, that was their bed, and that's where they lived. So she's amazing. She can cook, she can clean. I remember having my 2 kids, and there were times where I'd be like, damn, I don't have enough money for this shit. And she's like, I did 9 of you guys. I don't want to hear shit. You just got 2. And, you hear that. You're like, all right, quit your crying, quit your complaining. Mom's right. But damn hard worker. And the amazing thing is that we always talk about, me and my brothers and sisters, is that she raised us like in the worst predicament growing up in East Austin. And none of us came out fucked up, which is pretty awesome. And what I mean by that, it's like we didn't turn to drugs, we didn't turn to prostitutes, we didn't turn to gangbangers. None of us. We're all pretty nerdy, to say the least.
How about your kids now? Your kids are going to school.
Yes, they're going to Sunset Valley Elementary. They've been going there since pre-K. That was a school that used to be predominantly Anglo or white, and now it's like, I want to say 98% Latino. But they have a bilingual program in there to where if your child goes in there from the beginning up until 5th grade, they will be fluent in Spanish. And that's what I love about it, because they do certain hours of actual Spanish classes, and then they have their regular English classes. Mm-hmm. And it's actually very cool, because when I'm asking my kids something, they always say, sí, señora, y mama, they pregunta, and I'm like, what is it, baby? They love to, I mean, they're doing it. And before, they never even would have come that close to even trying to talk Spanish.
Did you watch the transition of that school from predominantly white to predominantly Spanish?
No, because we didn't live in that neighborhood when it was predominantly white. I remember going to football games at Berker Center, and we had to go early, like for the band, or I used to do the color flag, and remember seeing like the kids that were coming and going that were all white. That was like in the 80s. Excuse me, to where now it's just all predominantly Hispanic.
In your opinion, or your theory, where do the white students go?
There's a new elementary school, Clayton Elementary, which is further up, like going towards Slaughter. It's a really, really nice elementary school. It looks like a damn high school. And I've only heard from different parents. I think, I'm not even sure if that's the name, but there was a brand new elementary school, a huge one, and they all moved over there. They all go there. But I love Sunset Valley. I think it's a great school. The faculty and the principal, they're all great. Miss Placker is the principal. She's really awesome.
So where did you hang out during the daytime in Montopolis? What did you guys do like in the summertime? What was a fun day in the
summertime? Montopolis Recreation Center used to give out free lunches. So we used to go get, and they were good lunches too. We used to go over there, and my brothers used to play basketball. And it's really funny because when we're watching our basketball games, like with the Spurs, he's like, man, those guys are playing like they're going at it at the Montopolis Recreation Center, because they used to play very hardcore. My sister actually used to work at Montopolis Recreation Center, and then Montopolis had a swimming pool. So me and my brother actually, or all of us, we used to live at that swimming pool. But my mom was very strict. We never got to go out, like hang out. You know what I mean? We didn't get to go spend the nights at friends or whatever. My mom was like, no, you're here in the house and you never go out. I mean, the only time we were able to go to the swimming pool and stuff is because, of course, she was at work. And then we actually joined the swimming team, and we got to do that, go to the swimming meets and stuff. But when mom was home, we did nothing other than stay inside the house. I mean, we used to do goofy shit. Like we had a 45 record player, and we used to do talent contests. See, the theater was going even back then, where we had to sit like in an audience, and we used to sing Chaka Khan and all these crazy, ugly 70s songs and have to do dance routines. It was so funny, but we did a lot of fun stuff inside the house, the basketball and the tennis court and the hanger stuff on the walls.
When you grow up with a big family, I know your brothers and sisters tend to be your best friends. Did you have any friends outside of your family?
Not until high school. and they until this day they still give me a hard time, because when they used to come over they used to ride their bikes, and they used to be like, hey, let's go to Yvonne's house. They're like, dude, what's up with your mom? She only opened the door like an inch and was like, she can't come out, she's busy right now, and just like slammed the door in their face. And they're like, yeah, we did try and go visit, but your mom didn't even go open the door, and she was talking through the crack and da-da-da. So I used to have friends, but not friends that like I said, that I used to hang out with, because mom wasn't going to have none of that.
Do you have any questions? Any direction that I know that the Montopolis, again, my own understanding of the history of Montopolis is that it was a pretty poor area of town. It was actually almost even outside of Austin. Almost. Mm-hmm. Did you feel like you were part of Austin growing up?
No, and you're right. I mean, it's funny because there's a page on Facebook where it's called Montopolis USA. And that was actually instilled in us, that Montopolis we were our own city, that we weren't even connected to Austin. And, but to us, that was like a prideful thing. Like, yeah, we have our own city, man, and, Montopolis, we were very close to Dolores Catholic Church. So we did a lot of things with the church, went to CCD classes, all up until they weren't even allowed anymore, like after middle school. But my mom religiously made us go to church, and we did our 7 sacraments, or confession, communion, all that. We did everything, and the Jamaicas. And Montopolis is a pretty tight-knit neighborhood. I had lots of aunts and uncles that we would go visit to and from, and we walked everywhere. If it wasn't the city bus, we walked everywhere. And the sad thing about it is I haven't been back there in years, and I don't even know what it looks like, but from what I heard, it's like they're building houses and apartments and turning that place inside out too, like they are everywhere else in Austin. Mm-hmm. The gentrification of Austin, it's happening.
Right. What was your again, you grew up predominantly with Black and Hispanics. What was your first experience that you can think of when you kind of came into the Anglo culture? Can you remember at that point?
I first got high.
Go ahead.
I first got high with my Anglo buddies. Yeah, it was in theater in high school, and we used to have rehearsal, and my first interaction with drugs, and I shouldn't even be saying that, but I'm just being real. That was my first interaction with actually, smoking the doobie, was with my white friends. But again, like I said, I had great memories. I mean, I never, and that's what I'm saying, all this stuff that's going on right now, with this, it's just this hatred and this racism that's going on that I read about and I see in the news and everything. It's just beyond me. And I think that's one of the reasons why I keep telling people, like, yeah, I'm from Austin, because Austin has that kind of, when people hear the word Austin, they think keep Austin weird, the hippies, the liberals. And I mean, I never had an issue with any kind of discrimination. Like I said, it was a bonding that we still have to this day, where we were just different races and we all got along, and it was such a good time. It was a great memory, because even when I was like poor, because that happens now, I think too, like when I see with my kids going to school now, that there's just like the bullying kind of thing because you're not wearing nice clothes or you're poor. And I didn't even experience any of that with the busing that we did with the different races. We just all got along, and it was a really fun time. But it was a fun time.
Now, you said that your kids' school was 98% Latino. So it sounds like your kids are in a school that's less integrated than your school. Can you talk to that?
Well, it is less integrated, but the parent, and there are Anglo parents that are there. But again, I think there's enough interaction with them that it's not even that it makes that much of a difference. I mean, they have invitations to go to their their classmates' parties, and it's all half and half. It's half Anglo and half Mexican. And the thing about it that's cool too on that is that they both show up on both sides to those parties. And they tell me, like Sebastian will say, my best friend is Joshua, my best friend is this, and my best friend's that. And they're all some of them are Mexican and some of them are white. So there are Anglos that go there. There are white children and parents that I see daily, but it's definitely the majority is Hispanic for sure. And again, I've never had any issues or problems with the school itself or with parents or with kids. So, and I love Sunset Valley. So, and they seem to enjoy it too. So that's pretty cool.
If you could wave a magic wand and make Austin perfect, what would you want for the city? Just
to make it more affordable for people to be able to live here without struggling, and to stop making it turn into, in my opinion, I drive now and I see all the damn construction and everything, and it just seems to me like they're trying to turn it into Los Angeles. And I'm just like, I hate Los Angeles, but that's what I see. I mean, that's what I see. I just want people, you know, my mom, she's instilled that into us too. She's like, you know, you're not looking for the cash cow. You're not looking to be in a mansion. You know, you just live by your means, and that's all I think I want. And I can't see why anybody else should be able to do that. To live by their means and just be happy and comfortable without struggling, you know. With that said, though, you always remember where you came from. And, I mean, there were just days that, you know, we had to go get the blocks of cheese and the blocks of butter. But I just wish it was just less expensive. Because that's definitely something that I've, you know, because I pay my own rent. And I remember when we used to pay rent, that was $600 a month. And now it's like $900 to $1,000 for the same damn piece of property. That's crazy. And that's just to rent. You know, that's a damn house payment in my opinion. But, you know.
So you, growing up poor, did you realize you were poor when you were young?
Yeah, I did. Because, like I said, I used to wear my mom's clothes to school. And that's kind of embarrassing. I'm saying that because we used to fit the same clothes. But, yeah, I mean, I knew we were. But we never, you know, hated our life or, Mom, I hate, you know, none of that. Because we knew what it was to be in the environment that we were constantly struggling. So I think our mentality was, it was what it was, and we didn't think nothing of it. But, you know, shit, we had a house full of love, too. We lived in a 3-bedroom apartment with 10 of us. So, yeah.
Did you guys, you ever invent any food that is being poor? You get creative with what? Did you remember inventing anything?
I didn't invent any. We used to have, look, there were days when we didn't even eat. My brother, and we laugh about this to this day, my brother got a job, and we thought he won the damn lotto working at Kentucky Fried Chicken on Barton Springs. And we would literally stay up in the living room because he used to get off at 1 o'clock, and they would let them bring the leftover chicken, and we would jump his ass when he walked through that door because he always had a giant bucket of chicken. So we were eating chicken some nights, every night, when he had to work at 1 o'clock in the morning, because before that, there were like 2-3 days when we didn't eat shit. Which is probably the reason why I'm the way I am right now, because there's never a day that goes by that I'm going to eat my ass a good ass meal. But yeah, I mean, there were days where we just had like bread, and it was like ketchup and bread. Or like, again, like there were days where we didn't eat nothing. And there were other days when we used to go visit our aunts and uncles, and my mom would cook a mean-ass pot, huge pan of nopales and eggs. So we would have nopales and eggs with bread. That was so good. That's like still one of my favorites. And I'll never look and eat at lengua again, because she used to do that. And we'd be liver and lengua. We're like, no, but we had to eat it. And my sister, till this day too, because there were years where we used to make tamales. She would sell tamales for money. So there were days, my sister, God, I'll never forget, my sister, my youngest sister, she walked in the kitchen and she was traumatized because there's like 4 giant heads on the stove and the pan's boiling with the tongues hanging out. What kind of heads? Pig's heads. Pig's heads. And she screamed bloody murder, and my mom's like whacking her on the butt going, get out of here, because she's just like, ah! And to this day, she'll never eat or touch a tamale. Never. And I'm like, bring me those bad boys, because I love them. But yeah, that's one of the things I'll never forget, because the tongues are literally like, and you just see the shit boiling, you know, all around it. It's just, she's just like, ah! It was so funny to see.
Yeah. How about shopping? Where did being that you weren't...
There was an HEB on Cesar Chavez, and we used to take the city bus there.
Where was it, HEB?
Where the library and the City of Austin Central Health, there was a HEB right there.
On the Comal and
yeah.
Cesar Chavez.
And
right?
we used to take the bus there. And then we also used to do, there was a HEB on 7th Street, that was there. And the HEB on Riverside. We used to walk to the HEB on Riverside. We used to take the bus up into the corner of Montopolis and Riverside, and then we'd have to like either wait for the bus to go up, or we'd walk up or walk down. And it was HEB. We lived and breathed HEB.
Did you ever go to the Mrs. Baird's?
Yes, and we still go there to this day.
It closed down.
Oh, did it really?
Mm-hmm. The thrift store?
The one right there on Tillery? Okay, so do you know where the HEB thrift store was at? Tillery right there? That's where my mom's house was at. God, when did they close? I just went there.
Recently.
Yeah, I was there like not even, I want to say 4 months ago.
Yeah, they closed recently.
I used to I buy the pies and the cinnamon stuff for my mom and my boys because they love that. Mm-hmm. That's so sad that closed down. That was a oldie but a goodie. And then I heard El Lago too, because I used to go to El Lago right there on 6th Street to get the tortillas and the chips. They're moving to Pflugerville because they said it's just too expensive. They can't afford the rent there anymore.
What do you remember your mom's specific address?
3104 Castro.
My aunt lived on Prado.
Really? That's just one over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We had a lot of good memories of living on Tillery Street. My grandmother, she lived to be 96. And my mom would let us, my mom was, we used to spend weekends with my grandmother, and she only spoke Spanish. And we didn't speak Spanish at the time, so our weekends with grandma were not very fun. Because grandma was mean. Not mean, but she just scared us. Our grandmother loved us, but her tone and her attitude was very bold and strong. And she's from Mexico. Didn't speak a lick of English. And married 5 times. And the mom with the 19 kids, but my grandmother, when they had to remodel her house or fix up her house or whatever, she had other 19 brothers and sisters, including my mom, that lived in well-established, nice neighborhoods. And where did she want to come live with? The Section 8 housing family in Montopolis off Fairway. And so she lived with us for, I want to say during the summer, like 6 months. But it's so funny because my mom is literally turning into our grandmother, and people, the one thing where you say you swear that you're never going to grow up to be your mom and your dad. I'm exactly my mom. To this day, I will preach in her Bible. I'm exactly a reincarnation of my mother. So it's just funny how it all just like keeps going. But my mom didn't get to graduate. She never graduated. She tried to get her GED, and she did everything but the math. She couldn't do the math part. And that's another reason, because like right now I'm going to school. My mom, she'll watch the kids for me on anything. Because like I went to, I don't know if Rupert told you, but I went to Harvard for 6 weeks. It was like only 40 union labor activists were allowed to go. You had to apply for it, and they picked 40. And I was one of the 40 that got to go. And I told my mom, this is a big deal, Mom. And she's like, you go. I got the kids. And she took care of the kids. I mean, when it comes to like the union or my education or something that she knows that's for a good cause, she's like, you go and do it. I got the kids. But yeah, my mom's badass.
And then where else did you graduate from recently?
The Free Minds program, that was actually a humanities program. And it was through ACC. I was going to school Tuesdays and Thursdays. It was anthropology and humanities, creative writing, and philosophy. I hate Plato. I'm never going to pick up The Republic ever again. That's the one and only time I'm ever going to look at that book. Because, you know, my answer to everything that they kept asking was, well, the problem is you just have a room full of men who are trying to decide shit, and there's not a woman in that room. And she was like, well, we need a more thorough answer than that, Yvonne, because that was my answer all the time. But it was a great program. It started from August, and it ended through May. And I was going to school Tuesdays and Thursdays. They had free childcare, and they were providing dinner for you when you got there. Veve Griffith and Amelia Page Borsch, they were the two people in charge, and they're awesome. And Rupert went to my graduation. It was at the, what was it at? The
Harry Ransom Center.
Harry Ransom Center off of UT. That one wore me out because it was just constant writing. But we had, one of our sessions was about poetry. And
I love Veve.
Yeah, she is awesome. She's awesome. I love her. And poetry. And, you know, if I didn't have to, my writing is pretty just, and, you know, poverty sucks in my life and we didn't eat and da-da-da. And she's, you know, Veve and Amelia were able to put it in words or make you open your mind to where it actually turns into a pretty powerful story when you're reading and writing about stuff that happened to you in the past. So it was a wonderful program. And that just happened, it was in May. The graduation was in May. So that, and then also too, when I was doing that, that's when I got accepted to go to Harvard. So I had to go and beg Veve to please, and she made me do extra homework, which just killed me because I had to call in conference call during school while I was in Cambridge. And I was like, okay, I'm here. After fighting 5 feet of snow, walking back to and from school, she made me call, and I was trying to thaw out and listen to the class session, you know, every Tuesday and Thursday, Monday and Thursday. So it was all a challenge, but it was well worth it.
And then, maybe this is not fair because I know you pretty well, and so there's some things in your life that I know we haven't talked about, but I want to see if I can bring them up here, and if it's uncomfortable, let me know. But I know that you had a chance to leave Austin and go study theater, and you made a choice. I'm wondering if there's, from a perspective of Latina, that had you not been a Latina, would you have made a different choice? And you might want to describe what that whole thing is.
It was a scholarship that I was offered to go through. It was a scholarship that I was offered graduating Johnston with the New York Drama and Acting School, Dance and Acting School in New York City. And my first reaction was like, wow, this is so cool. But I told people, but they were like, are you going to go? And I'm like, no. Because it was already automatic that I was not going to go. Because again, like I told you guys, we were working. And I couldn't just like, that's the mentality that I was brought up in, is you can't just drop and leave your family. And I just couldn't do it. It didn't even enter my mind. I mean, if there was ever a regret, I think that's probably the only regret, but I don't dwell on it because, again, too, I was also being selfish and thinking I could never go to, you know, New York City and be by myself, and where was I going to live? And, you know, because the scholarship was just for the school. Where was I going to live? How was I going to make, you know, a living? And as soon as I started thinking about that, I was like, it's never going to happen. I'm never going to go. But it's kind of cool that, you know, I was offered to go. But the mentality of, you know, being with my family and growing up with a house full of people, that was the main thing. I couldn't see myself being somewhere alone. It was just scared the shit out of me. I was like, that ain't going to happen. And it didn't. But it was also a financial responsibility because I was working at the time and I had to I had to keep working. And one of the cool things too is like we lived at a Fairway apartment up until I started making good money. And I tell everybody, and they say, yep, it was you, because I was the first one to get my mom and my younger brothers and sisters out of Fairway. We got our first house in Glencrest off of Cameron Road, and I took the bus, went house looking, and I was like, I'm gonna get my mom a house. And it was rent, but still it was cool as shit because there was a guy out there who was fixing up the house, and I was like, dude, how many rooms? And I said, I can give you the down payment, blah blah blah. And then boom, we ended up moving in. So I can be proud to say I did that.
What was that neighborhood like when you moved into it?
It was quiet. And it's still a cool neighborhood. I think it's over there off Briarcliff, Glencrest, over there off of it, I want to say it's 78753 area. I can't think of the elementary school, but if you go further down, there used to be a Randall's, and
I think it's Andrews, right? Or Riley?
It's Riley, Riley Elementary. But it was a real quiet neighborhood. We had a dog. That was awesome. We never had a pet, and we had a dog, and he used to kill all our rats because we had a giant creek in the back, so he'd always have like a pile full of rats that I'm not talking like mice, I'm talking like rats, and he'd be like, look what I got for you guys. But the house was great. It was beautiful. It was a great house. But we lived there for probably like, I want to say 4, maybe 5 years. And then that's when I started meeting dudes and going out, and we went and lived together and all that kind of stuff. So then my grandmother passed away and my mom got my grandmother's house. But then the property taxes were crazy, sky high. So she ended up selling the house, and now she lives with me. And so we went from that to that to that. But my mom's still alive and kicking. And she always tells me, you just wait when I'm not here anymore and you're going to feel bad. I was like, Mom, you're only 75. Shit. Grandma died when she was 96, and our great-grandmother before that, 104. I'm like, you ain't living anytime soon, and I got to put up with this. So don't try and make me feel guilty, because it's not going to work.
How about just general socializing in Austin? Would you feel comfortable going anywhere in town?
Anything after 290. Is that too far? I want to say probably 51st.
So
anything past Harmon and 51st, I won't go near. I'm a South Austin girl. I'm an East Austin girl, so I don't know nothing about North Austin. But it's not that I am scared or I don't want to. It's just like I've always grew up and been raised in South Austin, East Austin, so. But no, I mean, the thing that really freaks me out, I think, is going to your side of town. Because I've been doing Theater Vivo since, 98, 99? And to see how that whole neighborhood is just getting bought out is crazy. It's just nuts. And, and it's not just your neighborhood, but, you just go one street over and you're right there off Lydia and Lady of Guadalupe, and then you're in 7th Street, and next thing you know, you're in East Austin. And that whole side, it's just turning into condos and buildings, and condos and office buildings. That's whack. I drive by there probably a weekend ago, and my mom was like, this doesn't even look like East Austin anymore. And she's right, it doesn't. It's mind-blowing how that whole place is changing.
When you were something that we thought of again, we're talking about staying at your grandmother's house in on Castro. Did you guys go to Parque Zaragoza or to Go Valley?
We didn't go to either one of those places. We just hung out in the backyard. My grandmother was like my mom, where we weren't allowed to go anywhere or do anything, and we never went. My grandmother used to bathe us in aluminum bathtubs in the backyard. So can you imagine how humiliating that shit was? Where the kids on both sides of these houses were laughing at us because we're like this freezing, and she's telling us in Spanish, bend down, pick up your underarms. She's bathing us. My grandmother, she's from Mexico, man. She was old school, but we used to get bathed in the backyard.
And how old were you?
5, 6, 7, 8. Or every time we went to go visit, it was time to take a bath. Backyard, aluminum bathtub with the manguera.
Is there anything that you want to add? I think it's winding down. Is there anything that you want to add in terms of that maybe we didn't touch on, that you had thought about and said, oh, I have to be sure to mention this, or?
No, I think I totally believe that what doesn't break you makes you stronger. That's been a philosophy for our whole life. And life is pretty good. It's like I said, we're not rich. Family comes first before anything. I have a really great tight family. We have awesome memories. Austin's something that I'm always going to be proud of, to be a part of. Born and raised. Brackenridge Hospital, I'll never forget. But I hope it doesn't get too out of control with the whole development stage.
Brackenridge Hospital, what is that?
That's where I was born, and that's where when I got shot, that was the hospital they took me to. So every time I see Brackenridge, I'm like, yeah, Brackenridge, that's the hospital that took care of me. So I'm very close to Brackenridge Hospital.